Hi, and welcome to Experience Points by University XP. On Experience Points, we explore different ways we can learn from games. I'm your host, Dave Eng from Games-Based Learning by University XP. Find out more at universityxp.com. On today's episode, we'll cover the Student Gamer Centric Approach to learning. One of the biggest changes to education has been the creation of a learner-centric model for teaching. I find this kind of funny as I believe that teaching had always been learner-centric. Aren't students the main benefactor of learning? Isn't that why we are all here? I can only come to that conclusion because I was thinking about learning from a games-based mindset. Games are created for others to interact with, play, and enjoy. They aren't for the designers. Is an unplayed game still a game? If a class isn't designed for students, then is it still a class? Let's talk about the learner-centered model. Students from K-12 programs, higher education, vocational schools, community colleges, and corporate development have hopped on this student-centered bandwagon. It's because a learner-centered model is better for students' needs. That's because this format wholly appreciates students' experience teaching and engaging. This is in contrast to the traditional way of teaching, one that taught discipline, standardization, and conformity. But this way of teaching hasn't gone completely away. I know because I benefited from it. I still remember how to cite my sources and avoid comma splices. But the learners of tomorrow can't rely on just rote memorization alone. They will need additional skills like critical thinking, problem solving, cooperation, creativity, and communication. And these are all skills that games are well positioned to help with. Now let's think about this in the context of games-based learning. So why consider games for this cause? Aren't there other methods of teaching students? Shouldn't we help them become the professionals, academics, and leaders of tomorrow? Of course we should. Games are just one additional tool in the educator's toolbox for helping their students meet their learning outcomes. But with a games-based learning approach, the instructor must put the student and their learning needs at the center of the activity. It is the basis of this method. In this learner-specific model, there are no passive receivers of knowledge. Instead, knowledge is formed experientially. Through gameplay, action, initiative, and critical thinking, our student gamers create knowledge on their own. They form connections, detect patterns, and make inferences that isn't available to those whose students merely memorize. This is a significant role change. The inclusion of games alone doesn't make this a learner-centered approach. Students should be active contributors and engagers in their own learning process. That includes steps that haven't been widely considered. That's because these have been the traditional domain of the teacher. The teacher has traditionally been tasked with planning lessons, selecting activities, and designing assessments. Through this model, our teachers transition from being the sole keepers of knowledge, the sole gatekeepers of learning. In higher education, this is known as the lecturer at the front of the room, the faculty member at the podium, and the sage on the stage. In a student gamer-centric approach, all students are collaborators. All students are learners. All students are teachers. And all students have agency in their knowledge creation process. Because of this distributed process, instructors have evolved to serve a new function. Instructors have now become guides. Instructors are now informed individuals who not only answer questions, but also guide students to new lines of inquiry and to empower them to discover answers on their own. I have used this model in the past with my application of games-based learning in my classroom. A simple game of Ultimate Werewolf became a platform for teaching persuasive speech. Pandemic became a lesson in asymmetric abilities and cooperation. Magic Maze became a frenzied experiment on rapid collaboration, but games exist well beyond the table as well. Due to the latest technological developments, teachers can also use any variety of digital games to aid in their students' learning. Such a platform is even more engaging as it can collect data on students' learning patterns and areas of challenge. So what is the point of a student gamer-centered approach to learning? This environment provides a lot of space for doing rather than receiving. In this experiential learning environment, there is room for interaction between teachers, students, the environment, and the material. A student gamer-centric approach to learning meets students as a collective society, rather than as individual vessels to be filled with knowledge. Through games, students can discover new interests, disciplines, strategies, and ways of thinking. This enables them to develop the necessary skills that will help carry them into a future where such collaboration is necessary for progress. I hope you found this episode useful. If you'd like to learn more about games-based learning, then a great place to start is my blog at universityxp.com/blog. You can also get a full transcript of this episode, including links to references, in the description or show notes. Thanks for joining me. Again, I'm your host, Dave Ang from Games-Based Learning by University XP. On Experience Points, we explore different ways we can learn from games. If you like this episode, please consider commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Subscribing is absolutely free and ensures that you'll get the next episode of Experience Points delivered directly to you. I'd also love it if you took some time to rate the show. I live to lift others with learning, so if you found this episode useful, consider sharing it with someone who could also benefit. Also, make sure to visit University XP online at universityxp.com. University XP is also on Twitter at university_XP and on facebook.com/universityxp. Also, please feel free to email me anytime. My email address is dave@universityxp.com. Game on.